Okay, guys, I'm here for episode 3 of Smacking the Roster Down, my retrospective of the SmackDown video game series, which is now the WWE 2K series. It's predominantly a roster retrospective, but there are some review elements thrown in. But I think the best way to deal with retrospective of this series is to look at the roster and try to figure out which game has the best overall roster. So, today's subject of today's video and episode is SmackDown Just Bring It, as the series moved into the PlayStation 2 era, which, coincidentally, the PlayStation 2 is the most successful video game franchise, most successful video game console ever in terms of statistics. And, of course, with a new generation console comes new hardware. And a downside from that was the roster of Just Bring It. We had around 64, 65 in SmackDown 2, which was big for a PS1 game title. And we go down to just a little over 40 in Just Bring It. So, what was the Just Bring It roster? Well, the Just Bring It roster was Albert, The Big Show, Billy Gunn, Bradshaw, Bubba Ray Dudley, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Christian, Devon Dudley, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Farouk, Fred Durst. Yes, Fred Durst. And believe me, Fred Durst is still not the weirdest person ever on a WWE Games roster. Those will come later. Hardcore Holly, Ivory, Jeff Hardy, Jerry Lynn, who is in the one and done club of this franchise, meaning that they've only been in one game of the franchise, and this was it for Jerry Lynn. Kane, Kurt Angle, Lita, Matt Hardy, Mick Foley. You had 3 of him in Just Bring It and Know Your Role. You had Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Mick Foley himself. Molly Holly, who was making her debut in the series. Perry Saturn, Raven, Rhino, both making their debut in the series. Rikishi, The Rock, Spike Dudley, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Steve Blackman, Steven Richards. Tajiri, making his debut in the series. Taz, Test, Triple H, Trish Stratus, The Undertaker, Vince McMahon, and William Regal. Regal, of course, making his debut in the series. So, yeah. Now, as far as the gameplay of this game went, it was pretty much the same gameplay as the previous 2 titles. You know, circle was your grapple, square was your strike, triangle was your run button, L1 was your finisher. There also, and in the creation stuff, they added the create a taunt feature, which allowed you to create taunts and use the taunts that you create. It was a nice little interesting thing. It made for some wacky fun. The main one-player mode in the game was, of course, a story mode. It wasn't really deep, but it was a unique story mode that actually let you free roam and go after things like the tag titles and European title or anything like that. And you could use anyone on the roster, but I think if you used a woman, you had to go for the woman's title. But yeah, a lot of interesting things were in this game. Now, you're probably wondering how Fred Durst even made this game. Well, I believe Fred Durst's inclusion in this game is due to licensing Roland for The Undertaker. I think that was part of his licensing agreement, was to show up in the game, or he wouldn't license the song. But he's not the weirdest superstar ever in a WWE game. There were far more that were weirder and wackier that were still yet to come in the series. But he was the first guest character in a WWE game, if not the first guest character in any kind of fighting game kind of thing. But he definitely was the first guest character in a WWE game, so he's kind of a historic thing there. So, compared to the SmackDown 2 roster, which was really good, this is an okay roster going on to the PlayStation 2, but the PlayStation 2 rosters would get bigger, and they would get better, arguably, but those are for other videos. The biggest drawback to Shut Your Mouth, though, or Just Bring It, is that I believe it used half a PS2 memory card. So it used quite a lot of your memory card to have it. I don't think it used the whole one, but I think it used at least half of one. But they finally figured out what the PS2 can do and figured out how to cut to where it wouldn't use that much for the following games. So next time, which is tomorrow, we'll be looking at the 4th game in this series, WWE SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, which ironically would also be the last one subtitled after one of The Rock's catchphrases. So that's for tomorrow. This will be in the Smacking the Roster Down episode playlist. If you like the video, like button down there, subscribe button down there. Tomorrow will also be my Power Ranger Ninja Steel episode 13, I believe it is, review. So, thank you for watching. Bye.